Okay, let's start. Lab 7 today, last session. We will do almost no any code today. In the first half, I will show you briefly some tools that will help you to optimize your codes, find the errors. And it will take maybe 30-40 minutes. And after that, we will have around 40 minutes per time where you have where you can ask questions a bit further. So the deadline for last homework is Tuesday, 6 March. So I think it's 2 weeks since today, or 3. So anyway, the task for homework 5, you need to push the changes for location-based reminders. As you remember, homework 4 was the changes for time reminders. So this code that we have implemented during the lab 5 and lab 6, you need to push. And I will show you how to build an APK, so you also send it to the project folder. In today's this 40-minute session, after I will show the introduction to debugging, you can ask any questions if you have any problems with your projects, if something is not working or buggy, just raise hands and me or Kennedy will help you. Okay. So let's start first. So let's assume that all of your code is ready, and I will show first briefly how to debug the code. For example, if you have an error in your code or something is not working and you kind of know where the problem is, so you can use the debugger tool. You can see that green bug on the top. So how it works, for example, I want to use it for time activity. You can put the cursor on this next to the numbers of the line and click. You can put a line breakpoint. So the program during the implementation will start on exactly this piece of code. So for example, I put it on that line, then I run the debugger, and it will also work both on your phone or on emulator. So I did the breakpoints on the toasts, which we flash when the time reminder is created. So let's try that it works or not. So I create a new reminder. And I click create. So you see the program is implemented until this line of code. So all has been done already. It was pushed to the database. We have created the alarm, but the program stopped on this. And you can see that we have variables inside this activity, which variable equals to some number, and we see the string variables and so on. And there are 2 buttons here, step over and step into, that forces the program to continue working. Step into is more detailed and line by line, while step over is mostly realizing function by function. So if I click this, the program is keep going, and you have seen that the toast was here. So how it works and how you can use it. So for example, you know that something is working on your program, but you approximately know where the problem is. So for example, I think that the user interface of time activity is working, so I don't have any problems with on create, and then something is wrong with set alarm. So I can put the breakpoint here and run the program.
What the breakpoint is now a different shape?
Because I put it for function itself, not for line of code. So for example, if I put it here, but you see that it's ignoring not the line, but the whole function. So I have it like here. So I create a reminder. Okay. And I click create. Oops, I think I did something wrong. Let's try again.
why it didn't work on the function?
Do you know? I guess it's ignoring some different way. Yeah. But let's run by lines. So you see, I clicked, but nothing happened. We were not forced to main activity. It was not created on the. It was not created in the database. So now we can go line by line and see. When you click, you see that even the core classes of the Android are using. For example, in time activity, we're referring to intent. So when we call this intent class is called and it's implemented, and so on. So yeah, you see, we now implement it line by line. So now it's pending intent is created. You can see what actually happens inside the intent. There are many parameters here. And now we get the system service. For example, we have changed the value of the extras that we put to intents. We can see hopefully it here. Yeah, you see we change in many parameters and so on. So yeah, and now when I do this, so the reminder was created. And then the activity finish is called. So once I click this, we see it was finished and we move to main activity. So the debugger is a nice thing to look for the errors in your code if something is not working. There is another thing that's used for part of debugging. It's log cut. So you can see that many things happening on the device itself, and it's mostly like native Android logs, but we can use also logs for ourselves, for our purposes. So for example, we can see for example, what's wrong is these values. We can log when we create the time reminder, we have these values. So we can see from the logs what the values are. So using this, you just call log.d. Yeah. Then you need to write the tag. It's string, which just refers to the tag for the logs. I will show later what does it mean. So let's, for example, use like I don't know, lab 7. Okay. And here you can write any value that you want to see or any message. So for example, I can type that yes, then I can refer to picker. No, I think I can use it like that. You can use single concatenation and date picker here. And then I can, for example, say picked this format. Okay. Now we run. I think, yeah, I need to remove this because I'm not using the debugger tool, and I can just simply run by compiling application, not debugging. But this also works. So you click the log cat, and you can see that many things happen in the background. So I create a new reminder. So I, for example, pick 2022, and I pick March. I do some test here and click create. So you can see on the logs that picked year was 2022 and pick months was 2. But the thing that we have picked months for the last one, I guess, was this one. Yeah. So you see that we have picked March, but the picked months is number 2. The thing is that behind the things, like how the calendar works, that for months it's using the numbers from 0 to 11. So 0 refers to January, 1 refers to February, and so on. So in our case, number 2 refers to March. And we have used this tag here. So in that line, you can write your tag. So it will filter out all the extras that you don't need. So these lots of lines, it makes no sense for yourself. So just simply write here, and it will show all that you need. You can have different tags here, and you can use different tags here. So it shows the different pieces of code. All right. So this also another thing how you can follow the program, and so you can write several tags, not tags but logs, and you can follow the changes of the code, how it changes on the way.
Will it strip those out when you build the whole package?
What do you mean?
I mean, because it takes cycles, like from the performance.
Yeah.
Will it strip those out when you build the shipping version?
Yeah. We will cover it a bit later. So the idea is that you use these logs and other tools for debugging. So we run the debug version of the application now. So it's okay to have the logs here, but when you create a package for release, Android Studio itself requires you to remove all the logs, so it doesn't waste memory of the application and doesn't load down performance.
You have to remove those manually.
Yeah. There are two different ways to build the application, one for debugging, another for releasing. So releasing itself, when you send it to the user or upload it to Google Play Store, then you have to keep the code as clean as possible, and the Android Studio itself have a separate list of requirements. I will show it actually right now. So for example, we can leave it here, or well, let's leave it here. There is another thing. I think I can do it like that. So on the right top, you can see this orange or whatever color is it, square, which shows the warnings for the application. So you can see that the code, like in that class, has some flaws, and there are two things that we are missing in, and it can be fixed. So this, you can see the column or whatever is it, line, it highlights the problems of your code. So for example, I have here two orange lines, and when I put my cursor here, it writes that I have something that is deprecated. So you put the cursor here, clicks, and it's directly push you to the problematic line of code. So in our case, we have here current hour is deprecated. So I told a bit earlier before that we used it just for the sake of simplicity. But well, if it's deprecated and you see that something wrong with your code, you can try different. For example, in this case, the optimal way to use it's not current hour, but hour. So let's first leave it as it is. Let's comment that first. So instead of get current hour, I can use just get hour. But you see, it's showing another error now here. That call requires API level 23, and our minimum, or my minimum, is 19. So we can solve this problem in two ways. First, we can just go directly to the Gradle file and change the minimum SDK version to, what number was it, 23? But it will obviously decrease the coverage of the application. And there is another way of handling this. So you can put the cursor right here and click Alt Enter. You will see that Android Studio itself helps you to solve the problem in different ways. So for example, this line 4 tells us that we can put manually the checked for the version of Android system. So let's try this. And we see that we build in the value calendar now in two different ways. So first, if the SDK version is bigger than Android M. It's 23. Yep. So if it's 23, then we can use, for example, timepicker.hour and timepicker.minute. If it's under 23, if it's Android 19, we can use this piece of code here. So you see that the reason that version code SDK is less than Android M. So let's try that. Okay. Sure. Yeah. There's something wrong. Let me check. Yeah, I don't need it. I need to do it. Like that. Yep. So this works, but again, this is deprecated. And yeah, as I told, there is some places in code when you either use this or you decrease the coverage of the application.
So is that if else block, like the result of this
Yep.
assigned to calendar?
Yeah. So you see, I'll probably make it more straightforward if I do it like that. So we assign in some value to calendar, and then we run the checks if the build your system like that. So if the system is 23 or more up to Android 10, then or 11, there is 11 now. If the version is higher than 23, we assign this value. If it's lower than 23, we assign this value. So for example, we can assign different values. So for example, for Android 20, we can just push these two parameters to calendar without time picker and without results of time picker, let's say. So in that way, the calendar element, calendar value on Android 23 and higher will be selected hour, selected minute, and so and so, same as we do in here in time picker. But if you keep this piece of code, the year will be selected, the month will be selected, the day of month will be selected. But if we don't have hour and if we don't have minute, it will be set by default by 0. So it will be midnight of that day. Yeah, I can show another example which makes probably more sense. For example, so you see that this right part shows that what's wrong with your code. Let's find some another class which probably have more flows. So in main activity, we have 5 warnings, 2 weak warnings. Weak warning is like these one that are less dangerous, and 4 typos. So let's see what's wrong with our code. So you see that, for example, here Android Studio has some recommendations. So function name show notification should start with a lowercase. So it's like more standardized way. It's working like that. It's not a big deal, but the standardized way how Android Studio is offering to do it, like all the functions should start with lowercase. So let's try to rename it. So we try to refactor it, show notification. Okay, the problem is gone. And then you see that it also highlights some typos. What's wrong with that? No, the notification. Yeah. So it's again just for the sake of code more readability and so on. No, so it should be notification. Yeah. And you see the problem is gone now. And that line by line, you can check what's wrong with your code. So for example, here it shows that the local variable should be lowercase, and then that variable is never modified and can be declared by using value. So if I click this, it forces me to line 135, and it shows me that we have used variable notification builder, but it never changes since we assigned the value. So if I put the cursor here, I click Alt Enter, and I see that Android Studio offers me to change it to value. So I click that, and the problem goes. Or next time, for example, here it shows me that it's unnecessary, save colon null. So I again click Alt Enter, and it shows. So that's how it works. For example, in map activity, let's see how clean the code is. All right, 10 warnings, 21 infos, and so on. So you can scroll and see what's wrong. So for example, here some values can be private and so on. For example, this, it shows us that, what's wrong with that? Should be replaced with indexing. So we are using in that way, but we can use it in different way, which is more optimal. So I put cursor here, click Alt Enter, and it offers me to replace it. So I click that, and you see, instead of getting the element of 0, we just refer it to it, and that's it. You can run it. You can check these inspections class by class, or you can call it for the whole application. So you can do it, analyze, inspect code, and you can select whether you want to do it for a specific file, for the whole project, for the module. So let's say we're doing it for module. So Android Studio runs this inspection, and it will show some results, what's wrong with my code.
What does that module refer to? Is it like your application, or?
Yeah, you can see that in our project itself there is a module for application. It can happen that in one package you can have different modules. For example, one for wearables, one for smartphones. So you can have one application where you have several modules. For example, one for watches, one for smartphones. So you use one APK, you can install it to both devices, but it will run in different way on these devices. It's normally you use just one module per one project. In your case, you will build the application. I recommend just to use one module, not to create several applications inside your project and so on. So we run this module. So we did the check for all the codes, all the classes that exists under our this application module. And you can see the inspection results that, for example, we have 28 typos. So if I click this, this pubs, this word not exist, so Android Studio offers me to use something instead. Okay, this refers to metadata, which we cannot do. It's fine. It's fine if you don't update some things that it offers you to modify. But spelling is not that important. But for example, for Android sites, we can see that it shows us again that this time picker mod equals to spinner was not optimal. I can say why we used this. So we used it to have this small formatting. If we remove this too, it will just huge, and we would need to make either scrollable, automated, make it with 2 activities, and so on. Another thing, let's see. It can happen that on some devices, because the optimizing of your code is a quite hard thing in Android, because there are so many versions, more than 10,000 different devices with different screens and so on and so on. So it's often hard to optimize the code, and it can happen on some devices. The system works differently, and the application which works perfectly on, for example, Google Pixel can work badly on Huawei or something like that, just because the core functions of the devices are differently. So to avoid that, you can solve sometimes, not always, but you can solve some issues. For example, this tells that we have to specify locale that smartphone uses. What should I do here? To uppercase locale. So I should use locale get default here. I hope it will go. Yep. Now there is no problem. So by that, you can go just line by line of your application and check if the code is clean enough, if the Android Studio offers you to update something or not, and so on and so on. We do not require that in the scope of the course. If you do the application with some problems in your code, but it works, is fine. But in ideal world, let's say if you're doing something for publishing or you're doing for a company job, the code should be like in the best shape as possible. All right, I have a few links in the presentation, so you can check them and see what's there. Resources. Okay. There is another folder, a part of Java classes. We shortly covered it in before, but let's just go through again. There is a folder of resources under the package, and you can see that it has different type of elements here. So the drawable represents all the pictures that exist, all the images that exist in your application. So before we have created this vector value, vector graphics here, but it can also be just simple non-vector images here. Layouts refers to the layouts of activities that you use in your application. Map refers to the launcher logo of the application. You can see that here we have used vector graphics that is scalable depending on the size of the screen. But for example, this is not vector graphics, this is just PNG files. So, and there are different in sizes because the smartphones have different sizes of screens. So it's better to upload several versions of the image, so it will be okay, scalable for different sizes of the screen. There is a why we used here, because vector graphics is more memory friendly. Let's say these few lines of code is just several kilobytes or bytes, but having 6 images can take several megabytes, which kind of important when you upload your application to the phone or to Play Store, because well, some oldish phones have limited amount of memory and so on. There is a folder values, which refers to colors, diamond strings, and so on. So colors represent the color scheme of your application. So for example, I can change the primary color to, let's say, violet. Was it changed? Okay. Yeah. So in that file, you specify all the theme colors of your application. There are recommended guidelines how to use these colors, because well, it shouldn't be like all the colors of the rainbow or something like that. For example, you can go to So Material.io is the website that Android offers you to use when you build in the design interface of the application, and shows some guidelines of the good practices. So you can see that there are some materials about how to use the color theme, and there are recommendations what are optimal, what are not optimal, how to use the colors and so on. But for example, you can see that we have changed these colors here, so it changes just the generic style of the application, and now the button is in that way. Okay. There is another file named strings, and here you list all the strings that you use in the application instead of hard coding strings in your user interface. For example, I think we have somewhere here. Yeah, you can see that Kennedy already used the text that's used for that button. This text create is used by strings. So we have the list of strings that happens on the UI, and you refer it by calling string and the name of the string. But for example, I think here there is somewhere, yeah, search. So this search text also goes to the user interface, but it was hard coded. And it's a recommended practice to avoid having the hard-coded resources. One reason is, again, performance. By having all into one chunk, it increases the performance. Another thing that, for example, when you create the when you need to make some updates to the code and it just refers to some elements of text, you don't need to go directly to map activity, find when this text was given and then change something here. You can just directly jump to strings and update the text here. Another thing, when you build in some multi-language application, so for example, I think I have the, yeah. When you do the localization, for example, for English and Finnish speakers, you can have two different set of strings. So you can see that under the strings, under the strings package, you can create the different classes, different files for different languages. So for example, this refers to default system locale, so it's mostly English. So if the phone is in English, the application will use this file. But for example, if the language of the phone is French, then the Android Studio will try to search for this file if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it refers to the default file. So you can create different translations for French, Japanese, Finnish, whatever. And then you can have the different sets for different texts. So in English, you will use this file with all the English translation. In Finnish, you will use the same way, but for different language. I think I can show how we made it in other projects. Yeah. So that's the application that I used for my research, and we did the application for two different languages, for English and for Finnish. So if you click this select project, you can see that under resource files, there are many packages. So for example, the folder drawable exists for default, but there are separate folders for separate screen resolutions. When we go to the values, so you can see that some values are for Android for version 21 and above. Some values that are for Android version, like by default for all the versions. So there are values for, let's say, strings values for English. So I have here all the lines of code, not the code of all the lines of the text for the user interface in English, but there is a second folder which named value fee. So it's for Finnish speakers. It's same formats. You can see that the name of the strings is the same, but the text itself is different. So if we change the system language to English, it will use this file, and all the text will be in English. If we change it to Finnish, then the application will change the user interface text to different language. So all the text will be in Finnish. So that
automatically set those names for it.
Yeah, that's
you have to
that's another thing. So for example, we have here in activity map XML, we have the search, which is hard coded. So once, well, again, you can use the inspection, and you can see that there are a number of warnings here, and one of them telling that hard-coded string search should use string resource. So you can put the cursor here, click Alt-Enter again, and it offers you to extract string resource. You can click here. So here you can use the resource name. So for example, search line, let's say, or search location. So that refers to the name of resource, and that uses the resource value. So for example, search the location, okay? And you see that it goes to the file that's named string.xml. You can create different resources for styles, for diamonds, and so on. For now, we use, let's say, colors. Oh, sorry, not colors. It should be string. If I use color, it goes here, but obviously it just writes the hashes of the colors. But for this, we should use string. Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes Alt-Enter just does not work. In that case, you can just create directly. So for example, I can create a new resource value of type string, and I can name that that's search location. And then you write here the text of your string. So for example, I use search location. Yeah. So now instead of having it here, I can refer to. So I use string search location. Now the error is gone, and the text is still here. And for example, if I modify it here just like that, you see it's updated. So yeah, it's recommended to use all over the application all the text fields text entries that you use for representing the user interface. It's better to use it via string files.
When you create like for different languages, do you have to manually set those variables?
Well, I can say that I did it manually, but there are some guidelines. Let's check.
Or you would just copy paste?
Well,
or there's a translator in the.
Yeah, there is some translator in Android Studio itself. Well, like Android Studio updates from time to time, and there are new tools that allows you, I guess, to do it automatically, at least to create the packages and files. Then you would have to change the, like this text, you obviously need to do by yourself.
Yeah.
For example, how I did that, I did it manually. I created manually the folder named value-fee, and then I created file inside here. Then I copy pasted all that, because these name tags should match. When system tries to use this line with tag game again, it searches for this thing. If you have, for example, this in English, if you don't have it in Finnish, it either will use the value that was used by default, or will crash. It can happen also. So the structure of this file should be matching, because the number of the strings should be same in both files. Then, for example, when we show in the toasts, it's also shown in user interface. It's not highlighted here, it's not a problem, but it's better to use it like also from resources. So you use get string, and then you refer R string and something. So instead of again hard coding, we can put this line of code to strings. So let's name it post for now. And there was some piece of text here, no reminders yet. Oh, let's change it to no. So instead of explicitly hard coding here, we can use the get string or reminders. You see? So next, in that case, if you use the first line, then if you will use the finish localization of the phone, it will show still the text with that value. But if you use string files and you use two different localization files, it will show you the corresponding file with two different languages. Okay. Next. Okay. When you build in some description of your project, for example, you're building the README file or you're making some presentation, you need to show the screenshots or video of your application, and Android Studio also allows to use native tools that exist already in Android Studio for you. So if you open the log cut, it's the thing that we already used for checking the logs of the application. You can see that there are many tools here, and on the left you can see that it also allows you to screen capture and record video of your application. So for example, if I go here to map activity and I want to show the map like the screenshot that happens here, you just simply open logcut, select screen capture, and it's trying to check the capture. If it can happen that once you capture, I don't know why it happens, but it's just not visible because the picture actually is somewhere on the bottom. It's not the like you have done the screenshot, but it just on the bottom. Just zoom it and zoom out. So you see that the screenshot was taken, and I can, for example, save it to my computer, and it's hopefully there. Let's see. Okay. That one. Yeah, you see, it's here. Same, you can do some screen recording. So you click this, you click start recording, and it starts to record all that happens in your application. So for example, I can create the reminder here. Click create. All right. So it's keep recording. Once I click stop recording, it's hopefully save it somewhere. Okay. So you see, video is also here. Yeah. So there will be a requirement for you to make a video presentation of the application you have built at the end of your self-development project. So you can use these just native tools to make screenshots, make videos, and so on. Right. And last step for today, once you're done with your application, your code is clean, and so you want to, for example, upload to Play Store. I have left in the slides some short guide how to do it. So it requires you to have the developer account, which costs, I think, $25 probably. This page is from 2017, so probably something has changed. Like the procedure is similar and straightforward. Maybe it's different in some small steps, but still, we don't need from you to upload it to Play Store. It will be enough just you deliver us the application on GitHub and the APK. But for example, later on, if you want to deploy something on the Google Play, you can follow either this. But again, it requires you to pay the entry fee. And just kill that. So you can check these guidelines, what happens before you publish, and it tells you that you need to remove all the logs, and you need to specify version code and version name for the application. So it happens under the Gradle files. So you, for example, you have created the application and you name it 101, let's say, then you submit it to Google Play Store, and later on when you need to make some changes, you update this correspondingly and so on. So, and you again build this APK, send it to Google Play. Google Play updates this on their servers and push changes to the user. So that's why we use this version code and version name. And there's a list of requirements which you need to follow, and list of recommendation. So one of them is that you need to sign your application. What this signature means. Let's say you built the application and you upload it to Google Play Store. You need to somehow be sure that only you will be able to make the modifications. So you need to assign some signature that will be just assigned to yourself and be more safe than just having password or something like that. When you build the application, so under the builds in Android Studio, there are separate options how to build the APKs and projects. So one thing you can build, you can just build the APK. So you do the build bundle, build APK or bundle. If you click APK, it starts to processing. It will build now the APK. Let's see. Yeah, you see. So the thing is that this feature always build the debug application, which is not proper to push to release to upload to Play Store. And when you want to upload something to Play Store or deliver to users, you have to use this signed bundle or APK. So what the difference is? The bundle is not the APK files, but it's several files, and they are smaller in size, and so on and so on. For now, APK is just enough. So again, I can show. So you select builds, generate signed APK. You select APK, go next, and here on that place, you need to create a file that will remain the signature itself of the application. So you need to have the key store. If you don't have, you create new. You name it somehow. So in our case, let's say reminder Oulu. Okay. And you create a key itself, again with the number of the key or with the alias with the password. And then you can assign some certificate, for example, the name of the company or your own name or something like that. You can fill this, click OK. You need to select the path here. I did it wrong. So I want to, for example, have it under the Android projects folder. That's okay. So I specified the name of the signature. I specified the passwords. It remains here. Then I click next, and now you can select debug or release version. So that's the thing. When you're making something into release, you need to remove all the logs. I think it remains still here. So let's see, will it work or not? You select this signature version, like different layers of safety. It's recommended to use it the more as possible. It happens sometime on some projects. For example, there are some errors, and to solve these errors, for example, you can remove that. But in optimal ideal situation, you have to use both. So you have created the key, you selected release version, click finish, and Android Studio is trying to build something. So let's see, will it work? Yeah, it's done. So you can see that you have here the application itself, like the project was named Reminder, and you can see that the structure, like default and sort that you've seen it several times. If we go to application folder, we see that we have release version here, and we have application release. So you can create, you can build this signed APK, and you can just push the changes. This will go directly to GitHub. So for example, it's here. Like I pushed all the changes here, and I have this release version of the APK here. It's a good practice to build it that way. So for example, you can use this link to download the APK to remain it like persistent. Later on, you can make the changes. For example, you can deliver this link to user. Then you can make and something is not working, something is buggy on user side. You can make the changes to your application. For example, you change something in your codes, update something, fix the error. Then you again build the signed bundle APK. It's again will go to that directly folder. Just instead of that file, another file will be here. And then once you push the changes, the link will remain the same. So you can make the changes to your application, solve the issue, fix the bug, and the application will the link to the APK will be the same. So you just tell the user re-download the application. Right. Okay. Yeah. When you do it's the debug version also here under builds generated, I think. Not, where is it? Outputs, I guess. Yeah, build outputs APK debug. But by default, the Git just ignores these files, and they are not pushed to GitHub. And there is another thing. For example, when you're trying to build something, there is something called reports. Yeah. For example, I tried to build the signed version yesterday, and there was something wrong with the code. So the Android Studio builds nice reports here and telling you what's wrong with your code and what you have to fix. Yep. So I think that's pretty much for today for the theory side. Once again, homework 5, 2 weeks from today, you send all that you have done already for the application. So you will have, let's just briefly make a review what the application has. The list of reminders, the list view with adapters, and you can create the time-based reminders, you can create the location-based reminders, and based on the type, it flashes either on the place or on the time. Yep, that's pretty much. So implement that, push the changes to GitHub, sign it, turn on the homework 5 in Moodle, and you're done. And yep, now we have around 40 minutes. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. If not, Yeah,
I
that's
could test it.
all for today.
Test this.
Sorry, once again.
I could test this on the phone.
Yep.
Because on the emulator I can see the map.
Yeah. Like when you do some simple operations like picking time or something like that, it's fine to use the application, but when it go directly to more some complex tasks, for example, like working with maps or working with, I don't know, something more complex than like picking dates, it's better to use on the real phone so you can see how it works in real life.
Okay, do you have a cable?
Do you have a cable? It depends what kind of need. I have USB-C to USB-C, but I don't know. Will it work or not?
This uses C. It's this. Can you?
Any questions, problems? And yeah, it's the last lab session, and there will be no lectures anymore. So starting from today, you can start working with your own projects, and we will send more instructions about the teams and about deliverables later on in Moodle or via email. Just check Moodle from time to time if something comes up. And
I actually had a question about for the future. Which way is the easiest way to contact people? The people, for example, you. If I have questions.
Yep, sure. I mean, let me just.
Which is the easiest?
Yeah. I mean.
Course staff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, email works, no problem. Just send email to us, and yeah. So first name dot last name Olaf. I just send our us email, and that's it.
Oh yeah, this course didn't have Slack.
No. Well, there is Q&A session in Moodle somewhere. Yeah, you can create if something is common. You can just create a discussion here and ask. But I guess the easiest way just to send directly to us.